Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to our June 15th live stream. I have on the stage with me Clark, Jeebus, and Ook. So for this week, I didn't really have anything specific per se, and I didn't really have any guests lined up because it's very difficult to get any of these theists on the AXP comment section to, get of get enough balls to actually come and talk to us. They seem very scared of us. But I did title this week's live stream providing a quote of what you did not say, because there was a thread where Damonkey was basically saying that Paul was saying some stuff, and then it's obviously, completely made up. So when asked to provide a quote, um, he basically wanted us to provide a proof that he did not say what he claimed Paul said. So it was just very strange. And there's a long thread on that. So I thought we would talk about that and maybe even talk about, I think maybe Blarg, you were kind of saying, and Jeebus as well, that Monkey and Jim are probably the same. I don't think that's the case, but you know, you guys have been around on this channel a lot longer than I am, so I'd definitely like to hear if we actually have any evidence for that.
Yeah, no, I don't think those two are the same. They've got a lot of similarities, but yeah, I'm still reasonably confident that Jim is the old Daniel Cox account, whereas yeah, Damon's a whole other string of accounts. But yeah, as we see, there's a lot of overlap between the two. So yeah, who can tell these things?
Jim Cassowary and Damien Cox, they use a lot of the same language. Occasionally they have used the same, cited the same sources, but it's still a bit, I'm sort of 80% sure they are the same person. But yeah, can't say for sure. And they'll never answer it, honestly, if you ask them, so no real point.
Yeah, there's there is a running process that we see sometimes with the people. They come in being quite conversational and keen to engage. They're quite convinced that they can argue their point successfully, and unaware of the fact that generally we've seen all the arguments before. They're not offering anything new. They're just regurgitating the work of other people, and usually very poorly. And when it all starts to fall apart over and over and over, they sort of the cognitive dissonance pulls them back into just you're lying, you're terrible, I hate everything, and then just it's copy pasta and insults from there on. So we definitely if so that's the path that I've seen with the Daniel Cox account, is that seemed to have been his path, and I've seen it with others as well, that follow a similar sort of trajectory. And then on the other side of the fence, we get the likes of Neppy, who just keeps regurgitating the same large set of claims, just as large posts over and over again. So that's the other direction that the trolls seem to head in, one or the other. So that's why I'm saying while there's quite a difference between the early style of the accounts that were definitely connected to the Daniel Cox account, and the current account being very very short, concise statements with no content of any kind worth touching on. Yeah, that they can be the same because of this this progression that we see.
Well, Jeebus, you had something, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now, and I've written down that they both bring up the Bell inequalities and the peer-reviewed papers from Nature. I kind of look for similarities like that, although that's been about a year.
Yeah.
Another thing I've done is I have tried to have conversations with them simultaneously. And I think that had led me to think that they could be the same person because they weren't able to keep up.
One would accidentally answer you on the wrong profile, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Well, I have to say, even for the Dan Cox account, that blog, I think you had given me a link to when he first showed up, and when I was looking at those messages, it doesn't seem to be at all like the Jim Cassavery content. So just from a kind of stylistic point of view, they seem very different.
Yeah, and that's the point I was sort of making about how they do change over time, and that does make for difficulty in comparison, where they go from this gung-ho confidence to essentially something of a defeated. In a little bit, it's a bit like the Moat and Bailey fallacy, where where you start trying to defend a large position and you fail to defend that, and then you come back to the smaller defensible position, and then just hold in that location. So it is very difficult to be certain
Yeah.
one way or the other, though.
I mean, you would have to kind of be able to chart the gradual change over time. Like for Monkey, I know, like when he kind of first showed up, at least when I first saw it, he wasn't constantly saying liar, liar, but that was something that kind of built up over time, where now he's like worse than Jim, and just like every response, he just says liar. Um, but I think, his sort of reliance on word salad and talking about things that he obviously, doesn't understand, that was like a consistent thing. He was doing it from the beginning. There's a different degree. I think it's worse now, but that's something he had started with from the beginning, at least from when I noticed it. And just as an example, I've put on the screen the long thread that kind of led to this. But, this is just like very typical of him. Nope, the atheist will deny teleological claims about coherency, math, knowledge, logic by appealing to atheist axioms. So that's all just, word salad, because it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense to have say there's a teleological claims about math or logic. Coherency, I think that comes from like the precept argument that that you can't have coherency without God, but that's not really a teleological argument. That's more of an ontological argument. But for the rest of them, it makes no sense. And of course, when he says, I think later, oh, you have to pin them down with an internal critique on their beliefs of unjustified axioms, which I made fun of, because axioms by definitions are not justified. It's basically principles that are kind of at the foundation that you can't prove. So you have to accept, um, you know, because it's necessary for you to build up, let's say, epistemology. So this is where, like this kind of comment displays how he's ignorant of these things, but he uses these terms. And this makes it distinctly a monkey post, whereas if I see what Jim or anyone else posts, it's not at all like this.
Yes, I agree. That's quite a different style. He tends to try and follow this this path of sounding like he's familiar with philosophy, and word salading his way. It was with certainly a couple of the previous ones. I used to just basically respond to pretty well everything he said with buzz and an emoji of a bee a few times, because it was just buzzword bingo, basically.
He does seem to kind of go through different cycles of different words. Like recently, he kept on calling everyone trolls. Probably because he's getting called a troll, and that's also a pattern where when you accuse him of a certain thing, he tries to turn that around by calling everyone else that same thing.
I think he's basically got sick and tired of no one agreeing with him, and has gone off on a rage post period, which quite a lot of them, the godlings, do. They go off on rage posting when everyone refuses to, well, believe their insane claims. I mean, I still can't get over the fact that he thinks that the Dead Sea Scrolls prove Christianity. I mean, there's nothing in there about Christians. It's really strange, and his demand that everyone should be able to say the following: children have natural and intelligible rights.
He's moved off of that, or he doesn't bring that up anymore.
Yeah, that's it. That one.
Unalienable. Yes.
Yeah. I haven't got my front teeth in, so I can't. There are some words that I just can't do. But yeah, I mean, the only rights that humans have are the ones we give ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. And there's technically no such thing as an inalienable right, being that there's things that should be, but that's the basic definition of it, is something that can't be taken or given away. So the right to our own thoughts, that seems like an inalienable right, until you go along and read the 10 Commandments, and in there's a thought crime. So yeah, apparently your thoughts aren't your own either. So you've, by ascribing to belief in that, you've given away the right to having your own thoughts being something that can't be taken or given away. So,
and that whole statement of his is the driving force behind him calling everyone, you support child rape and all that garbage, because no, they aren't. No, the humans give rights to humans.
Well, I think it's coming from the U.S. Declaration of Independence, where it calls out the inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The document is kind of saying that it comes from our, the Creator, but ultimately it is something that we are ascribing to ourselves, as we as human beings are, ascribing as rights that we have. And the claim is that God gave it to us, but it really isn't, right? It's us.
yes, by agreement with everyone else around us, we and the fact is, these things change. Like the right not to be somebody else's property seems something that is as obvious as the sun coming up in the morning, but that wasn't the case for the vast majority of human history. It's a recent change in thought process that was kicked off by the reduction in the power of the church in Europe, and the Enlightenment, which came as a result of people allowed to think outside the box that the church created for them.
I think the discussion actually hinges on the definition of what inalienable means, because the three things mentioned, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, they obviously can be taken away, right? Life is definitely taken away. Liberty, talk to the slaves at the time. Pursuit of happiness, that all can be taken away. It's not inalienable, but I think what it's saying is that it ought to be, right? Everyone ought to have these as rights.
Yeah, that's right. It's aspirational.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
rather
word.
than factual.
Right. But when, Monkey is bringing or saying that, bringing that up when he says inalienable, he's saying that it's not aspirational, but it is, right? It's that whole uh, issue, deriving an ought from an is, but he's kind of going the other way where he's, taking the ought and converting into an is.
Yeah, I think he's going to be on this this whole rant that he's on probably maybe another month or so, and then he might change to something else that he gets upset about.
Yeah, that's right.
But at least
He goes through cycles of buzzwords. So
Yeah.
hence the reason the buzzword bingo this week. It's teleological. Some months back it was inalienable. Next week it's probably going to be the cosmological argument. Will be his particular thing. It'd just be whatever it is that he read recently that he was like, "Ooh, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna go with that."
But at least Donkey has said he's a Christian, whereas Jim Cassowary, I think the closest he's got is Plato's God. I don't know. He just, yeah. And,
Well, he's obviously a Christian,
oh yeah, we
Definitely,
know what
obviously.
he is.
But he refuses to say it because every time you make it's a little bit like the political party that's not in power, refusing to give any information about their policies, because the moment you do, people can pick on them. Same thing here. The moment you start saying about what you believe, you open yourself up to having to defend those beliefs. So don't say it. Keep it secret, and then try and force the other side to be the ones to defend.
Well, since Paul is on here, yeah, I think the thing that Donkey's on right now is, constantly, accusing Paul of having said something that he obviously did not. This is what the topic of the stream was. This whole thing about the moral harm and, claiming that Paul said moral harm has no meaning and is fallacious, including child rape, etc. So this is the thing where he can't give any quote of, what Paul actually said. And we know whatever he said, he's just twisted it so that, it's definitely not what he had argued. This thing about why did you argue the definition of moral harm is actions are immoral because they're immoral. He's just taking our criticisms of him that, he's kind of like making a circular argument and all that. And he's just kind of turning that around to, that's some kind of fallacy. And why did you say that? This constant, explain what you're saying, prove what you're saying. He never would try, give any proof or explanations of what he's saying, but he always demands it of others.
I could, if I had the time, I could go through every post that I've got of Damon's and see where he starts first talking to Paul about that, but I don't even know how far back to go. Have you got any idea, Paul? You can just type.
Put it in the chat, or, I mean, I don't know, Paul, do you ever want to join us on the stage, or no? You want to kind of stay in the live chats?
He's off getting a cuppa.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I wouldn't even know how far back to go. I've got a lot of Donkey's posts going back to 2002. No, hang on, not 2002. When is it?
Let me
22.
get the link.
Yeah, 2022.
I love Donkey's use of the term ontology, basically being synonymous with the word truth, and you just go, it doesn't mean truth, you dumb schmuck. If you had a clue what you were saying, it wouldn't sound so freaking ridiculous. And that's a great example of him not understanding the crap. He just thinks they're interesting words, so he'll just keep saying them. So yes, objective ontology, or you're just going, well, it's not even close to the meaning.
Okay, we have Paul on, so he can defend himself. Why do you defend child rape? We can't hear you, Paul, if you're talking.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Paul.
Howdy.
G'day,
Can
mate.
you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hello, Paul.
So,
Nice of you to join us.
oh, no problem. Yeah.
So
This is
Donkey
strange to-
constantly accuses you of defending child rape.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, I had to close the window that I had the YouTube because I was getting a delay effect. I was hearing everything back again, so it was a little confusing. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So yeah, I don't remember exactly when this came up, but he's just in the habit of deflecting. Anything he can do to deflect, he does. So, and one of the things he does have in common with Jim is this thing where he says, "Oh, you don't agree with me with my idea of objective morality. That must mean you believe all these atrocities are morally justified." That's a common gambit that they both use, which is one reason why I kind of brought up the idea that maybe he was a sock puppet. I don't know if he actually is, but anyway.
Yeah. I mean, other Christians on the comments do that, you know, at least ones that kind of talk about objective morality or whatnot, or morality in general.
Yeah. But it was also sort of a way of teasing him, I suppose. But yeah, it's I think that but yeah, this thing, I don't remember exactly when it came up, but it was fairly recently. It was like a few days ago. And because I think it was just a couple of days ago, because we were discussing, he was making claims about objective morality. First, there was the thread with Jim or Edith. They're both the same person. I don't remember if it was specifically Jim or Edith, but it doesn't matter. And they so they made these claims about God providing objective morality, blah, blah, blah. And so we were going at it with him. And as often happens, Damon turns up and starts saying, well, why do you think this is justified and this is justified? He was just like carrying on Jim's line of attack. And then at some point in the last couple of days, we were kind of challenging him to explain what he was talking about. And he came up with this idea of this phrase, moral harm. And I was like, what do you mean by moral harm exactly? And of course, he never defines his terms. Never,
Well,
ever
he
does he
did.
explain it.
Well, he said, well, he basically gave the definition of moral and definition of harm, and thought that was sufficient.
So yeah, that's not an adequate explanation, because basically that's saying it's a harm that is morally good.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's what he meant to say. So he does not he doesn't think about what the terms he's using actually mean, and he can't explain it at all.
Yeah.
And
So I
so
mean, if he
and
was
then
actually
he
someone, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh sorry so I said, well, what are you talking about? Basically, it's like, I don't, this doesn't seem to mean anything. And then he started accusing me and saying, oh, well, that means that you think that child abuse is okay and so on, because moral harm doesn't mean anything. It's the usual tactic, basically.
Yeah, so that whole moral harm thing came out because, uh, when Donkey was trying to explain the source of objective morality, because I kept on asking for it, and he said it was, I think he was saying it was based on moral harm to, what is it he called? I think moral nature or nature morality or something. And so when I told him that, he can't. Oh, I think initially he said it was a harm to, the, realm of morality or something. And so I told him, like, if you're going to base it on harm, it's not going to be objective. And then he said, well, I didn't mean harm. I meant moral harm, which made it seem like, he's talking about something completely different. But and that's why we asked him for the definition. But he doesn't mean something different, right? He just made it up because he kind of got caught in a corner by saying that it was based on a harm.
I just looked, and going back, I think 13, 14 months, that's when he first started having a go at Paul about the child rights. And he's also quoting a lot from Corpus Juris, volume 30A on inquiry. Jurisprudence, legal philosophy lays out.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that's
He
when
was talking about natural law at that time and inalienable rights conferred by natural law.
Yeah,
That was what he
that's
was
when
on about at the time. And so I said, well, what do you mean? And, I was trying to get him to clarify what he was talking about with inalienable rights and what he meant by natural law and so on. And of course, his response was just to fling accusations.
Yeah, and he's gone like in a whole circle back to that now.
Yeah. Just with somewhat different terminology.
Yes, which is what they tend to do. It's all, I call it the Christian Morris dancing, because all Morris dancers work on a circular pattern, and I can just see a bunch of Christians dancing, dressed up like Morris men, dancing around a maypole. Just sort of amuses me.
But it's interesting that the cycles of these guys. So, Monkey wasn't active for a while, and now he's very active. And, Neppy was very active, and now he's essentially AWOL. I don't see almost any comments from him. And
Yeah, he
Flojo
pops in
also kind of
occasionally.
went.
Pops in occasionally and spends 2 days spamming 100 comments an hour, and then runs away. I don't know. Maybe he's got to travel somewhere to meet his parole officer.
Yeah.
I sometimes think that.
I haven't even checked on Twitter what he's been doing there lately. I try and avoid that place like the plague, but he might actually have someone to talk to on Twitter. which would be amazing because no one has ever done it so far.
Wonder how Ronnie Alexander's going, because he was a bit
Oh,
like that. He
yes.
sort of jumped in and he hated really hard, and then yes, he had a little epiphany or something. He talked to a priest or something, and like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do it. I'm sorry. Deletes his account and goes away, and then oh, I can't help myself. Got to come back. Becomes running back to exactly the same behaviour he apologised for. But yeah, he's been a little while since we've seen that poor sad sack around. Well,
he got upset when he was becoming homeless that I told him to go find a big fridge box to live in. I don't know. I was trying to help him.
Well, now we see.
Hasn't he used?
Go ahead.
Hasn't he used different alts in the past? I'm wondering if he is Doc, the Back to the Future guy.
Oh, the Dark Shadows thing.
Gigawatt.
Yeah.
Gigawatts, yeah.
You think he's Ronnie?
I suspect he might be Ronnie.
No, definitely no. Ronnie's way less educated than Gigawatt. There's a vast difference between the intelligence of those two gentlemen.
Really?
Yeah.
They both seem pretty dumb.
It's hard to spot. Gigawatt's pretty pathetic, but yeah, Ronnie is so. Gigawatt's got a whole different feel about him. Ronnie just feels pathetic and sad, and a poor little bitter ball of humanity. Whereas Gigawatt's an angry, out there sort of more extroverted sort of a character, quite different in their feel.
It might be because I don't have a lot of interaction with Gigawatts. I mean, he's just going to delete what you say. If it's in a different thread, then it's okay to talk to him. Yeah.
This whole delete your posts, your own posts, that just seems a strange phenomenon, a strange thing to happen. I really should.
Well, I think it's them kind of feeling like, they are
It's an
winning.
assertion of power. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It also has some other effects. One, I suspect it helps, or at least they think it helps them protect their account from, having copping strikes, because some of the stuff is not, it's no longer there. So it's easier to avoid, whether that's true or not, or whether the algorithm takes account of stuff you've posted and deleted. You'd hope it does, but it also helps mean that they don't have to defend stuff they've said previously. They can just get an absolute walloping and then hide the evidence that they've how badly they lost, so they can just go and do it again.
Carl Hobson is a great one for that, which is why I take screenshots of most of his posts, because he's going to, somewhere in one of his posts is going to be complete total hate speech. And I also have to remind Chris Maisie constantly that I do take screenshots of his more insane claims. So yeah, don't try and back out of it just because you've deleted them. And if you report via their profile, if you've got a screenshot of someone's post and they have deleted it themselves, if you report that via their profile, you get a nice little letter saying yes, it will be looked into. So but I mean, you can report till the cows come home and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
It's just basically report and cross your fingers and sacrifice something to the YouTube gods.
Yeah, so I wanted to also talk about, like I mentioned, Flojo seems to come back, and he's now really not engaging. He's just making the posts and generally doesn't respond. Sometimes he does, but it's pretty much the same thing. But I did want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that he says, and it's all very creationism oriented, and it doesn't really matter how many times we correct him. He doesn't. I think he just ignores it. But
Yeah,
it
it's
all
all
comes down.
it's
Yeah,
He's
go ahead.
called
walked the same
biblical
path.
Christianity.
Yeah, he's walked the same path basically as Neppy. So he generally, it's just sort of the same copy pasta over and over and over, and stop engaging. So Neppy basically doesn't reply to almost anyone anymore. He'll occasionally be drawn if you poke at him long enough with the same thing. But yeah, that's Florida's taken the same path as
Well,
Neppy
I
now.
guess I have to correct myself. I think he does read it, and he kind of does what I do, where I indirectly respond to him, and he kind of indirectly responds to my response to him. I've noticed that. So I think in this case, I had made a comment about his dumb comment about can non-life produce a fully conscious living being, and that's where he started kind of now. And I think someone also kind of challenged him on what non-life means. So he responds by putting a post like this: non-life equals no life, absent of life, which is kind of ridiculous because that doesn't really tell you what non-life is, Oh, Miranda
Yeah,
put
it
up
doesn't
a
answer the
comment.
question at all.
Yeah, that one. So Miranda, I was kind of also thinking the same thing. It's just, I just don't know if, these things actually do anything at all. So, um, sometimes I'll report things like that, but other times I don't even mind. So, yeah, it just seems like, if you happen to catch someone on YouTube who's paying attention, uh, maybe they'll do something, but most of the time I think it just kind of falls into a black hole.
I don't think there's actually anybody reviewing most of this stuff these days, and they've cranked since Google has really got its hands into it. Now it appears that it's gone a similar path to what Facebook
Twitter?
discovered, that negative comments drive engagement. So they want to keep the negative comments up there because that makes people come back and spend more time on the platform. So yeah, that's why I think perhaps they've basically dropped the ball almost entirely on removal of comments that breach their own bloody rules. They
Well,
have the
there
rules, but
was
they
a
won't enforce them.
time I felt like, they kind of, adjusted it so that
Yeah,
it's more of a hair trigger.
yeah. It used to be quite a lot of accounts. Like Neppy's gone through 60 at least that I'm aware of. But in the last year or so, there just really hasn't been, like, he's created a couple of new ones, but the rate of turnover is basically non-existent. So you can just spam the same stuff over and over and over and over and not get strikes.
Yeah,
So,
the most they'll do now with reporting is you may get a 24-hour, 48, or even a week ban. And people like Neppy, who have so many profiles to fall back on, it doesn't bother them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
functionless, meaningless.
Yeah.
Well, Jeebus recently got a 24-hour ban. I know, Jeebus, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, that was a couple days ago, and it had to do with the troll named Rachel Levine.
Oh, yeah.
And all I did was post their previous alts that I knew about. And I think the reason they gave me this cyberbullying 24-hour ban is because his alts, some of them were anti-Semitic, some were anti-trans, others were these little digs at atheism, and I think that's the language got me that 24-hour ban. I actually had a warning before that for the same thing.
Yeah, but
And
I've had a couple of them in the last few weeks. The warnings you may have breached.
yeah,
And I just send back saying, "What's this may have? Please give me an example. That way I won't do it again." And nothing. But yeah, I've had several in the last 6 months, 24-hour bans. So
I find
did
it
they give you
remarkable.
form?
sorry,
I find it
Did they give
remarkable.
the
Sorry.
form to fill out?
yeah, it comes up. You got to take a screenshot of their warning, and then you got to go to a different. It's convoluted, but you can do it. Usually, I don't bother, but yeah, there is a set form they have, but you got to take a screenshot. But when you go to post something, you get a warning. You may have been breaching TOS. Oh, it's complicated and hardly worth doing.
And
But
they
you
won't
can
give
get
you
your
any feedback either.
no,
They won't tell
none
you
whatsoever. None
No,
whatsoever.
I find it remarkable that the rules that apply to what you can write don't apply to what you can name your character. So a while back, Donkey had an account called Trends is a Mental Illness. And it was
He thought he
absolute,
was so smart using that one.
yeah, because it was absolutely impossible to reply to that account. The moment you tagged the account name with a reply, the anything you posted, even a smiley face, got instantly deleted. So those words
That was
together were an instant delete thing, but he could have it as his account name, and you just go, "The fuck are you doing, YouTube?" Like, honestly.
yeah, but we came up with a whole bunch of nicknames for him. It was funny. We call him Bigot and the whole
Yeah,
bunch
we had to
of
work
other-
around it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, so I do feel like instead of, before when they were kind of on a hair trigger to ban people or to give warnings, I think they've changed it now. So it's more of they're using the shadow bans, right? They're just not having a lot of those comments appear, and they're erring on the side of banning. So even if it's like close, even little bit sounds kind of bad, or if you have certain keywords in there, they'll just shadow ban you. And I mean, everyone's learned now to sort by newest, but it definitely is really annoying.
A couple of years ago, I had my main account completely deleted, like without warning, without a strike, nothing. It was just received an email saying your account's been terminated, and it was. And if you have an issue, please follow this procedure. And of course, I followed the procedure, and the reason for that one is because I'd got into an argument with actually just basically a shit-posting atheist who had a few accounts like Dumpster Fire and iDerision and a few others. So they've kind of disappeared now. They haven't got to come back. But they had at least a dozen accounts that were used around. And I think what they'd gone and done is, I didn't find out what the actual thing that I was accused of doing was, but essentially I think what he'd done is he'd just sequentially logged all of his accounts on and reported me for something, one of the more severe ones, and because so many accounts reported the same thing, it got an instant ban. And anyhow, I gave a list of some of these accounts and what had happened. And when they looked at it, yes, they agreed. My account was restored, and then all of the comments were restored like 2 days later. And all of the accounts that were used to report me were deleted. And you just go, that's the sort of response that would be good to see a bit more of, but you just don't see it these days. But yeah, that being said, that account's dead now anyway, because nothing I post is visible to anyone but me. So it hasn't been terminated. It's just been 100% ghosted. You can't even see the comments via sort by newest.
That's happened. I had my main account reinstated 5 or 6 times, and now on that original account, the same thing with me. Everything's ghosted, which is why I've got to my second account.
Isn't there a way? I mean, can't you report the user, like for the case where the user profile has, something objectionable? Couldn't you just kind of report the channel?
Yes, you can. You just go to the channel and you can report the channel, say what the issue is, but nothing really happens anymore.
It helps if you put a screenshot of the offensive post. But as Miranda states, this, I think I know the person she's talking about with the hate speech about LGBT and threat of violence. There's both in his handle. It's just one of those things that, you have to keep reporting via the profile, not via just the when they post, the 3 dots on the side. You have to go to their profile and report it and show evidence for, which is really, if you're on a phone, impractical to do. I finished.
There was kind of something weird when I think this was about objective morality, and I was saying that, well, murder can't be objective morality, at least the way Monkey says it, because it's not always wrong to murder, or so I gave a bunch of examples, murdering Hitler or murdering one person to save 5, etc. And there was like one I had put in, and it kept on causing my comment to get ghosted. So I thought it was like, because I mentioned Hitler, but it wasn't that. It was some other kind of weird thing. I can't remember what it was, but once I removed that portion, the comment stayed. But it was very bizarre why, that particular one, triggered my comments to be deleted. I have to try to figure out. I can't remember what it was, but it was sort of weird.
It's just one of those, the gods of YouTube are very mysterious.
Yeah, I got a feeling that it had to do with something more kind of a commercial reason rather than, it being Hitler or something objectionable.
Yeah, it's why I've pretty much gone to Aussie slang and Cockney rhyming slang if I want to insult someone on YouTube now, because you can't just say dickhead because your post will get banned. So find new and interesting ways to say wanker and the C word.
Well, it is amazing how clever the algorithm is. So even when you try to kind of hide it in a certain way, unless it's like really, really clever, the filters seem to still detect it. Probably because so many people find different ways to get around the filter.
Yeah, there are there are ways to bend the rules, and unfortunately, the guidelines really seem to know the ways how to bend them without breaking them. And if we don't make one slip, we're out. We've got to wait for the ban to be lifted.
It seems like DK is being really careful to say grape. I don't know if he says PDF file either, but he does. And now Jim Edith doesn't seem to have any compulsion at all. But yeah, it's interesting what DK will say.
Yeah, I'm sure he's learned over time that he can't say rape, but he can say grape.
I've often wondered, is there a Discord service or something where all the godlings go to work out their new battle plan to destroy the atheists? But
I think there are some Discord channels where like apologists will gather and talk about things.
I know Darth Dawkins and all of his minions used to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like a gathering spot where he would sort of teach them his style, I suppose.
Well, I don't think Darth is trying to teach anyone. It's just him kind of wanting to be important out there.
Well, yeah, that's what I really mean. he thinks he's teaching people, and that makes him important.
But they're definitely followers, who
Yeah.
kind of try to mimic what he does.
Does anyone think that the Dawkins profiles that come up, Darth Dawkins and all the other ones, are actually Darth Dawkins?
No,
or just clones?
I think it might be Jim Edith. I mean, he also goes on about chemicals.
Yes, that was my opinion as well there, Paul. The chemical delusions. If I have a good chemical delusion, I can't even type.
They've doxed him a couple of times that I know of. His name and his ex-wife identities.
Yeah, I don't hold with doxing, but I can definitely understand it with such a. Well, I don't really use this word often. Evil person as Darth.
Yeah.
It's just, and I don't consider anything Kiwi's done on his channel as doxing.
But Monkey keeps on saying it, right? That
yeah.
I'm giving or revealing personal information, and nothing I posted revealed personal information.
If it had, your channel will be off.
Yeah, I mean, I did. There was that one post I had made where it showed the picture of Neppy, and based on your feedback, you guys' feedback, I removed that, just because you could now potentially link it to his Twitter.
Yeah, it's just better for us to. We got to play it very safe, and we also have to know biology, geology, archaeology, the Bible better than they do. It's really quite tiring to be an atheist, especially for someone who their ex-boss said your work ethic is intelligent laziness. So having to work hard and find all these sources is really exhausting.
Has anyone ever tried to troll the trolls? And what I mean by that is, pretend to be an atheist that's on the fence and maybe pretend that they're converting them. I don't know, to sort of string them along, sort of like the opposite of Danny.
I think Ricky from Australia tried to do that once, but I don't think it worked very well. More to do with Ricky's mind than anything else.
Yeah, certainly
Well,
not my style. I'm not good at that sort of thing.
Yeah, the trolls probably are not. They're not really here to convert us.
Oh no, they're definitely not. There's a whole point to you get the ones, and I don't think I'd necessarily even call them trolls. The ones who just post scripture all the time, and ostensibly they may even believe that they're here to help us see the light, and that the scripture will convince us of something, completely unable to recognize the fact that if we posted scripture from the Quran or the Avesta or whatever, nobody's going to, that they're going to reject that out of hand because they don't believe the underlying premise to start with, so the words don't mean anything. But essentially, the point really is about them engaging with their own material, and it draws them closer to their own cult. So by going through finding the appropriate material out of the Bible and then posting it up, and then noting that nobody listens to the good advice that they just gave, and therefore we must be what was been described as moral degenerates or whatever.
Well, that's Flojo, right?
But
That's
there's
what he's
plenty of
doing.
other ones. Like Flojo's less honest, so he's in that he posts all this sorted stuff. But there are others who just simply post what looks like quite honest attempts at putting up scripture that they think is helpful.
There's the one who always posts repent and draw near to Jesus and all that.
Yeah, I think that's Timmy. Timmy something letters. I don't consider them trolls. I just consider them spammers.
Yeah, it's definitely spam.
Yeah,
they don't see how this is completely not helpful to what they think they're doing. But the reality is, by posting it, they're just essentially engaging with their own material, and it's for their own purpose. It helps keep them connected rather than the other way around.
Yeah. I really like Beacon 80's response to this.
Response to which?
What you posted there. Repeating for those who have a short memory. You really shouldn't accuse other people of having a short memory, given how often you ask questions we've answered a dozen times already.
Yeah. I do think, Flojo does believe that he's, quote unquote, doing God's work, when he's doing this. He considers, I think, himself to be in the right and, justified, etc. So I don't think he considers himself a troll. I think he feels like he's trying to help people.
Yeah, but I believe some of his behavior is trollish. There's a fine line. I mean, some people define troll as people who don't actually believe what they're posting. I don't. I think, though, that there is a point at which people basically just don't care anymore about even making a case for what they're saying. They're just trying to goad people into reacting.
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of that. Rage bait. Also, a lot of the godlings it makes them feel good. I've testified for the Lord. Aren't I a good person? It's validating their own sense of moral superiority. I don't know what it is, but it's just ridiculous. I mean, quoting Bible verses, it's all good. Strange how none of the Islamic, we don't get a lot of them, but they don't seem to post the Quran
Oh,
verses.
there was one guy, I can't remember on which video it was, where he said he was Muslim, but what was it? He was kind of criticizing how bad Christianity is and how superior Islam is. The guy who said that he was an atheist, I think, and then he kind of converted into Islam. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, the guy who keeps saying his father was a preacher.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he converted to Islam 2002 or
See,
2020.
he's someone where I wonder if he's like a troll, whether he actually, is a Muslim and he actually believes that or not.
There have been a few fake Muslim trolls commenting, but I think they've all gone now. I haven't seen any since the new year, but there were a few fake Muslims, but not sure about the fake Christians. No, I'd have to say that most of the ones we get actually really do believe what they're posting, which is the real sad part.
Oh, yeah, that was Timmy, right? I think someone had mentioned Timmy. Oh,
Yeah,
John Clark is on.
That's one of the Timmys.
Right. Oh, what happened? So John joined us.
Hey, John.
One.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Hey.
Hello.
This is the Timmy one, right?
Howdy ho.
My dad was a pastor in Dallas. Like most of my peers, I left church after 6th grade, etc.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
There's another Timmy, couple of Timmy Christian posters as well. He's relatively new, the Timmy Muslim.
Oh yeah, so I was making fun of him because he said secular atheists as opposed to non-secular atheists, I guess. Yeah. So John, how are you? You were late today?
Yeah, I apologize about that. I got pulled into something at work at the last minute. Technically, I'm kind of violating some of the rules by being here, but
Oh no.
apparently I'm just a troublemaker anyway, so. Yeah, I want to apologize. Apparently, I've scared off all of the good-hearted Christians that are they're good soldiers for God, apparently.
So John, I sent you an email on this, but didn't you get what's his name, the Rachel Levine obsessed guy, to kind of agree to join us on the live stream? Was that you or was it someone else?
I think that was someone else. The closest that I got to an actual commitment was from what's his name, Throne of David, which I don't take him seriously at all anyway. But he said, "Okay, what do you want to debate about?" And I said, "Debate on whether or not your deity even exists. I'll let you take the affirmative." And that was the last I heard from him on it.
Okay, I think I got that confused. So I thought it was the Rachel Levine, and so I have to correct myself on whatever that thread it was where I mentioned it. Yeah, these guys are not going to show up on the live stream.
Speaking
no, you'll notice Diva hasn't come back, Hugh hasn't come back, even though they were going to have studies that were going to back up everything that they were saying.
On the issue of inviting theists in, is it open slather, really? Can we try and get anyone? Yeah. All right, I just wanted to know the protocol on that. I think it'd be good.
Just for noting, I suspect that the Rachel Levine character might be APOT.
Well, I think Jeebus, you were referring to him as APOT, right?
Yeah. The reason I sort of tagged him that way is because a previous account called Atheist Cultural Marxist referred to had a
Ooh, I
thing
got a
with
file on him.
with Rachel Levine, and that term a cultural Marxist is all over everything that APOT does. He loves it. It's a great anti-Semitic trope that runs through a lot of his stuff. So that terminology sort of suggests that that might be the same character.
I think that's a good evidence that it is.
Yeah, because that's quite an unusual phraseology.
Mm-hmm. And that
Okay.
was the same, like North Korea is the best Korea thing, right? That also came from him.
Yes, as far as I can work out. I just opened up Atheist Cultural Marxism, and in the first 3 posts, it's almost word for word what Joey Transhate, or whatever the 21 different profiles he's made since June, is posting. Pretty much, yeah. Okay, I think you're spot on with that one, Bard.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that's kind of a slam dunk. That's one where, it's pretty good evidence that it is.
Yeah, I just thought I'll have a little quick search in my what do you call it for the term Levine, and then it that popped up under that particular account name, and you just go, ooh, nobody else is obsessed with that person, just literally no one else. And then curiously, the cultural Marxism is also a term that the Nazi Party used to use. They used a slight variation of it, obviously the German word, but so they called it Bolshevism. But it was the same term meaning the same thing. So it's got a great history, that particular term. So yeah, APOT leans nicely into the neo-Nazism world. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, there were occasions where I would interact with APOT and I would start feeling really dirty indeed, like I need to take a shower. It's sometimes it's just unpleasant dealing with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They all go out of their way to be as unpleasant as possible, regardless of who it is. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I don't think Deagle will ever turn up here again after him saying that the King James version of the Bible is not a Protestant version. I mean, that was a true death thump moment for me.
Yeah,
it's
my eyes popped out of my skull.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with you being an asshole, John. It's just they're too dumb. It really is. They have no clue.
Well, I do feel like, the guys that did show up, like Hugh and, some of those other guys, I think they kind of joined with sort of this thinking that they could get on and they could just, display their amazing understanding of theology and, beat all the atheists. And then when it, and I think that also goes for Flojo as well. But when they got on and it didn't quite work out that way, I think that's where, they're not coming back.
They were not as prepared as they thought they were.
Yeah.
I think it was Flojo who said he was upset that he couldn't preach to us more.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well,
yeah, off you go.
Flojo's the one that. So Flojo, he's weird on a level that I find disconcerting. he's outright obsessed with getting my phone number. Like anytime that I respond to him, that's all he says to me now. Like he wants to get my number and he wants to talk to me, which is just like that's borderline stalker kind of activity. That would really concern me.
Well, so initially, Flojo basically just wanted to talk to me one-on-one, on a phone call. And it actually took a little effort to get him on the live stream to have this discussion. And he was very clear. He wanted it to be like a one-on-one debate. So I think it's just him kind of feeling, I guess, insecure if there were kind of other people that he was arguing against.
Just a funny thing then, she who must be obeyed just described preaching at someone is the same as sex. You have to get the consent first. I think that's brilliant.
What's his name? That kid from Canada. What was his handle? I haven't seen him for a while, but I think he was kind of putting in comments maybe against Jim about you are assaulting me or with your comments, something like that. So I think he was kind of making that type of comment.
Yes, it was something. Yeah, it's only in.
That's apathetic.
Oh, apathetic. Yeah, apathetic fish. Yeah.
But no, I like that. I'm definitely going to use that. Yeah, it's like sex. You got to get our consent first.
By the way, I was trying to get WWLib on this channel as well. So I had said that if you're interested in coming on my live stream, this isn't the one. There was like a different thread where I almost got her on, but in this one I basically said if you're not interested in coming on my live stream, why bother commenting on it? She seemed very critical.
I'll even promise to shut up and not say a thing because they absolutely hate me. But yeah, I'll even shut up for that one.
And in my defense, I mean, I know you were kind of being joking when you called me an asshole earlier, and to some degree maybe I am, but I do know how to play nice. And I played nice with Diva until he started being an apologist for knocking up a teenager without consent. That one really bothered me. So
no, dude.
I can play nice with them.
I'm a certified bastard with the paperwork to prove it. And but I can be nice. Sometimes you have to be, because you can't smash everyone's head into the bar. But there's a time to be nice, and then there's a time to turn up the psychopath level to 12, and empathy down to 0, and have fun. But it's some of them do need to be pulled up for their completely horrific, inhumane beliefs. And if that takes being an arsehole to do it, so be it.
Miranda made a comment. Don't you know John 3:16? What John 3:16 says? That's all we would get out of WWLib.
What's the other one? Bob Garnett, the Catholic American, the guy who kept claiming that there's tons of free hospitals.
It's Garrett, isn't it? Bob Garrett?
Yeah. Garrett. Sorry, Garrett. Yeah. I mean, if someone wants to try and get him on here, that'd be incredibly fun. And I, again, would shut up, but I would be, with my knowledge of Catholicism, special knowledge of it, I'd comment from the backstage. Yeah, I'd love to see him on. it'd be so much fun. Because
Um,
I pulled him up on a couple of times because where he's basically walking the line of heresy, of going against papal bulls, which is, you can't do that and remain a Catholic.
So Dr. Satan made a comment about, I feel like if we are serious about debates, they should be solo, perhaps with an impartial moderator. So I was going to make this comment about Flojo, when he wanted to debate John Clark one-on-one. I said it last week as well, but I can make that happen. I can just put just the two of them on the stage. I do feel like I have to kind of act as a moderator and I'll try to be impartial in terms of just monitoring the time. But we can definitely do that. But I just don't think that these guys are actually serious about having a real debate.
I
And
mentioned in
when
the Yep, off you go, Q.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when someone like Neppy says, I've won all my debates against atheists, that he's not being serious, right?
No. But that's why in the comments I suggested maybe Neil might be a good impartial moderator, because, well, Neil's a theist, but he doesn't hold any real batshit detrimental to humanity's ideas. So that maybe Neil, I think. But you're
Yeah,
also
but I mean,
capable of doing it.
technically he's not impartial, just as, I don't think any of us are impartial, because Neo is actually rational, right? It, uh, so it's hard to be impartial, but and at least in terms of ideology. But I think I feel like I can be impartial where, I'm
Yeah.
not, trying to, give one side an advantage. And when I had that first debate with Flojo, I tried very hard not to, like, give myself an unfair advantage.
No, I think you did very well. But yeah, it's something that if if the theist would like just a one-on-one with someone, I think, yeah, let's try and make it happen.
Yeah, I was even trying to get Sparty on as well. And not for a serious debate per se, but I think for some of these kind of regular trolls,
Oh,
it'll
you
be interesting
bugger! I
just to
damn
kind
near
of.
choked on the tea. Oh,
What was that?
you bugger! I almost choked on the proper Spartan on for a chat. That'd be really great.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
boy.
like that one guy that came on who was just completely out of it, that weird guy who has a music channel.
Oh, the Rastafarian. It's
Was it
not a religion; it's a
Rastafarian?
lifestyle.
No, I think that's Hugh, but there was
Oh,
like another guy, someone the second, he had like the second or something, but um he was just kind of completely sort of a little bit off kilter, I guess. Remember he just kind of came on and just went on
oh,
about something bizarre. Oh, Wesley
um,
Miranda remembered.
yes, Wesley. Yes,
Yeah,
that was. Yeah, you needed to get rid of him because it was obviously, well, like, you don't like to pick on people who appear to have a mental deficiency
yeah.
or
A-
problem.
And I feel like that's what will happen with Sparty, where we're going to have to just sort of let him go because, he probably has some mental issues.
Yeah, and from that perspective, maybe not Jaffles either, because there's no
Yeah.
way that guy's sane.
Sorry. Hang on.
Like the Bible expert who's never owned a Bible doesn't and never read one, and you just go, righty then.
I love it when other theists, or especially other Christians, tell him to sod off. He's just. I think he has to be for real, because, I mean, who else would respond to Aboriginal names of animals or particular types of cheese with the same span? I mean,
Or made up German sausage names.
yeah, it's
Dirtwurst. My favourite.
it's really hard
So-
to tell who's a Poe and who's not. That's the basics.
You know that guy Michael Lope or something, where he Michael Pay, I guess.
So
He
who's got
yeah,
his
yeah.
Spain.
unit up for a prize if anyone can memorize the entire Quran.
Oh, right, something like that.
Yeah,
But he
he's
actually called in to the show, so
yes, on Talk Heathen a few times, and it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Isn't he always on about atheism being a fallacy?
yeah,
He thinks that's a big
Because-
gotcha.
yeah, because he thinks that all atheists are arguing against a straw man of Christianity. He
Right.
thinks that's all atheism is.
A creator, yeah.
I don't even bother reading his posts anymore because they're
No.
one, too long, two, they're badly formatted, and it's gibberish.
I do feel like one time he called. I think he was kind of making a pretty good argument. It's just, he wasn't really able to get anywhere with it, or he wasn't able to really express himself very well. But he did have an argument. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it just wasn't sufficient.
Yeah, it was some. There is a language barrier with him.
Yeah.
He's. I think he's Spanish, but has residency in the UK as well, because he flits between the two. But yeah, he's a strange one.
Back on the
When you
10th
say
of-
residency, you don't mean like residency as a psychologist, right?
No. He's no psychologist. He can't be, unless Spain has a really, really low bar for a psychiatrist. But yeah, he would be interested to get on.
Yeah.
He would.
I mean, I think you could be someone like him could be a psychologist, or maybe a therapist. Because I mean, I definitely know that there are psychologists / therapists who are religion oriented.
Or completely batshit, like my sister. Yeah, and she's got
Okay.
psychology and sociology. She goes off the deep end every now and again, but she's still pretty good, as long as I take her in small doses. I don't think there's ever really a sane psychiatrist.
Yeah, so just going back to what Uka said about inviting some of these tias, I mean, I think it's fine, just invite whoever, and we can bring them in, and if they turn out to be just completely off the rocker, we can. It's relatively easy to remove them off the stage. So, yeah, I think it's fine at least to try to have some of these discussions with these guys, and like Dr. Satan said, if needed, we can definitely make it more of a controlled debate if that's what they would like.
Michelangelo P did call in to Talk Heathen back on the 10th of March.
Yep.
So he said he was going to, and then he did. So he may be able to be talked into, wanting to come on and have a chat, because he's called into a main show.
I guess the only issue might be the time zone thing. Since he's in Europe, it'll be pretty late for him, at least for my live stream.
Called Talk Heathen. So what time is that? compared to this show.
Talk Heathen is like pretty early in the day, like 1 p.m.
Yeah, well, he was saying he was at work and had to get permission from his boss to be able to call into that show. So, yeah, for something, I'm not sure where that says that he's actually located, but it suggests that he's up at sort of that hour anyway.
Yeah, and I didn't he call into the Atheist Experience as well, which is at 4:30.
Maybe he's Miguel from Spain, is what he called himself.
Yeah. I think he was, or maybe not. I'm not 100%.
He called Talk Heathen at least twice. I know that.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking. I think he had mentioned that he wanted to read his poem in Spanish, and he thought that was going to be convincing.
Oh, yes. And they just said no.
Yeah.
That's why I'm an atheist. I haven't heard enough poetry.
Or not enough of John 3:16.
Yeah.
We're just like one John 3:16 away from being a theist.
I think I'm going to use a song line the next time someone says God is love. You know, what's love got to do with it? Tina Turner.
Yeah, Michelangelo would probably be, if he can come on, he might be interesting to talk to. I agree on that. I think all of the ones that would be willing to come on are going to be all of the ones that are going to, be sound and fury, signifying nothing like the last handful have been. That's my only worry.
And that's fine. It's like, so it'll be kind of interesting experience, at least. I just feel like for the guys that post on the Atheist Experience, it'll just be interesting to hear them actually try to back up their, spam or arguments or whatever they have. But ultimately, none of these guys are going to come to at least this stream with anything original, and anything that we haven't heard before.
One thing worth noting about Michelangelo is that he does tend to respond when people talk back to him. He puts work into it. He hasn't just fallen into that just respond with you're a liar or some standard copy pasta garbage. He's a little bit more engaged, so I thought, he might be more fun. He's got something slightly different than the others to talk about too, so yeah.
And I think there is kind of a lot of anxiety if you haven't been on streams or any of these kind of online where you're talking to other people. It might seem daunting, right? If all you are really used to is just from the safety of your home, just giving out putting up comments, it may seem kind of scary to actually talk to a real person.
Sure, and again, to be fair, if you're one person and you're coming into a room of 4, 5, 6 people that are going to, on some level, be hostile to what you have to say, it does take a certain amount of bravery to put yourself into a situation like that. That's why I always try to give credit where it's due and at least say, hey, look, you showed up, so at least there's that. I always want to make sure that they realize that I at least recognize that they showed at least that much strength of character, even if their arguments were garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for anyone else who's outside the US, but it'd be nice if we could get a Baptist on to talk to, because I really have no idea what Baptists are all about. It's not a thing over here. The closest thing we got is the Brethren, and every single church that they open is a different brand. It is slightly is a schism from the original one. So it's I have no idea what Baptist really is, and even the reading doesn't tell me much.
Has anyone seen the channel Apologia Studios? He's probably a Baptist, but a red-headed looking fellow with a beard, young bloke, runs that. It's a church as well, and wow, there is worlds of hate in that place. That they're not quite. What's the one that goes to funerals and puts up signs about how terrible people are? Westboro. They're not.
Yeah,
quite
that's the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, they're not quite. He's not quite there, but the hate is really thick with that guy. Kudos though, you are allowed to actually. He's one of the very few religious channels where they actually don't just delete other people's opinions. So you are able to comment on their channel, which is unusual.
Which channel is this?
It's called Apologia Studios, similar to Paulogia, but with an A on the beginning.
Okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, I don't bother commenting ever on any theist channel that I watch because I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be accused of, oh, you're trying to preach atheism, and it's sort of like, oh.
Well, I haven't been there for a while, but wow, it was an eye opener. So
I've been looking at the the Baptist the big meeting they're having, and some of the stuff that's coming out of there, and it's I'm still scratching my head, going, what the hell?
So I just want to kind of mention, I showed this before, but WW Lib's kind of criticism of, trying to bring theists into this stream. So, she's basically saying that we're being snarky and mocking. And even after they come on, we continue to mock them, in the comments, which I think it's when they post comments on the videos, we do respond, not especially mocking, but, the way we would respond to any theists that, make ridiculous claims.
I mean, to be fair, that Blarg and I are both Australians, and we have a patriotic duty to take the piss out of anything.
And I know, John, you had sent me some emails about this, but I do want to be, I don't want to be combative with combative with the theists that come on here. So I do want people to attack the argument and not the person, but you do know some of the especially some of the guys that we've had where it does kind of go a little bit off the rails.
Sure. So, and let me sort of address some of that. First of all, if I've caused the conversation to derail, I do apologize for that. That's certainly not my intention. It is designed to try and just address the argument specifically. The most recent thing I sent you about Diva, though, the absolute repugnantness with which they just have no regard for the concept of consent. That's something that I find so appalling and so offensive that the person, but really in terms of playing.
Nope. I think we're losing you, John. We can't hear you. All right, I think we lost him, but I wasn't trying to be criticizing of what John or anyone behavior in the discussions with some of the theists, because I mean, when you look at the AXP and like the line or whatever, the hosts do get outraged when there are outrageous things that are said, and I don't think that's wrong or bad, but more of kind of an aspirational thing that when we do have theists on here, I think we should, like I said, attack the argument and not the person. But there are definitely times when you can get outraged. And by the way, some of the funniest moments, especially on the line, is when the host just kind of goes off on a guest who's just kind of completely toxic or wrong or bigoted.
Yeah, I don't think John was, or any of us have been particularly insulting to anyone who's come on here.
Yeah.
They just have a thin skin. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets heated, but that doesn't necessarily mean we were insulting or being, whatever, trying to mock. Even the snarky and mocking, that's generally doesn't happen within the live stream. Obviously it happens in the comments because as a response, to some of the posts that they make. But I don't think we are as bad as what WWLib is accusing us of being.
But the fact of the matter is, if you come on and say stupid shit or horrible things,
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, you're going to cop it. You're going to get criticism, and don't like the idea of being criticised. You just go, here's an idea, perhaps try to not be a bigot, or
And
whatever
also,
it is that's the issue.
If you're coming onto live stream to debate or argue, I think it is something that you should expect that sometimes, the discussion's going to get heated.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone has their triggers.
Yeah.
And
well, hopefully we will get more people. So just in terms of time, we're past the 90 minutes. So I'm going to close it here, but anyone want to kind of say anything, that you haven't had a chance to?
no,
I think that's
it.
That's it.
Oh, I think I'm good. But
All right.
again, but thanks for having me on and having this discussion.
Yep.
Thank you.
And anyone in the live chat, anyone who wants to get on, I can definitely post a link. So if you want to join us in the future, don't hesitate to just ping us. So, all right. With that, I'm going to end it here. I want to thank everyone that was on the stage with me, as well as all the people in the live chat. So we will hopefully next week we'll have some maybe possibly guests, but even if not, this is definitely an enjoyable discussion having with people, with like-minded people. But I will for next week we'll see what happens, but I guess we will all see you in the comments.